Hi everybody, Carl Emberson back again live from Punta Mita as we enter another week here from Punta Mita, checking in with our friends from around the globe, be it from Argentina. Our friend Pablo Musumesi, who just checked in as he always does to catch up on these check-ins. Today we have a special guest indeed. It's a renowned travel journalist from the United States who actually lives in New York, a good friend of mine who I've met. Está ahí, amigo Peter. Welcome, Peter, on board here. Great to have him. I'm looking forward to this chat a lot. Hey, Peter.
Hello, Carl. How are you?
Good, mate. Hola, amigo. How are you?
Let me put this down so you can see me right, and happy to see you too.
Good. How's Handy going? How's you both?
She's doing great. She's my director for half of this stuff now because we're all in the bunker in New York, as you know.
I bet. Tell me, Peter, I want to first of all thank you for giving me some of your time as we check in from Punta Mita with friends of ours and fans of ours and experts as we try and get a grasp of what's happening, what will happen as we go forward. And you know, many people have know you. Allow me to introduce you to our Punta Mita fans. Peter Greenberg, a very renowned journalist, travel expert, and one of the best in the field. So it's an honor to have him talking to us. John O'Sullivan, the Irish, sends a big hello to you, mate. As does James.
And right back at him.
Pardon?
And right back at him.
Right back at him. Anyway, Peter, all over to you, mate. First of all, where are we today? What's your take, and where will we go to in the next few steps? And I'll have a few questions for you as we go forward, but take it away, mate.
Well, let me give you a little general overview, and that is, and it's not a good one, I have to tell you. Forgetting the unemployment levels in the United States and worldwide, the millions of jobs in the travel sector that are either gone or still at risk, and then the real problem that we all have in the absence of widespread testing or a workable, scalable vaccine. After 9/11, we were all worried about flying over a large body of water to go anywhere because of terrorism. And the TSA then came in. That's how they were born. And we tended to be rebounding quickly. This is a completely different ballgame. Now we've gone from FOMO, fear of missing out, to FOGO, fear of going out. We don't even want to go across the street. And the reason for that is it's serious fear. And again, in the absence of a vaccine, we don't have any guarantees. But it's not just us wanting the guarantees. It's our employer wanting guarantees before they let us travel for a business trip, or us wanting guarantees before we go on any trip, or for that matter, any government wanting to let us in without guarantees that we're not frothing at the mouth or glowing in the dark. And I'm not trying to be funny here, that's real. So at this moment, 100% of all world destinations, countries, already have travel restrictions in place. But of that, 72% of them are closed, completely locked down, no airlift, airports done. So we're dealing with something that's going to be with us for quite some time, even if we ramped up tomorrow. So the good thing about Mexico, at least for the North American market, is you'll probably open earlier than everybody else. For international destinations where that body of water is acquired, we have a bigger problem. And we won't see that come back till February or March of next year. And that's when it starts to come back. It's not when it's going to be back. Now, if we had a vaccine tomorrow and we had the old yellow health card that was then reinstituted that said we were been vaccinated, that's our get out of jail free card, then all the borders open up. But right now, the issues of liability, political responsibility, and basically, try to do basic duty of care work all against that. And that's going to be with us for quite some time. However, the other good thing, at least in the 48 US states that are the continental states, we are going to come back faster, but it'll be car travel, RV travel, and trips that are about 300 miles from home. So Mexico has never really been a drive-to market for us, for all sorts of reasons. However, if they can come up with a sort of acceptable temperature check, which in many cases is theatrical at best, it doesn't really tell you everything you need to know.
Right.
or even an immunity card that the government of Chile is now issuing to its citizens. The problem with that, of course, is that I tested negative on the day I got the card. I go to Mexico 30 days later. That tells you nothing. So,
Right.
I mean, right now it's like the very first days of the TSA. It's sort of security theater. We're just going to have to live with this until there's an internationally accepted, vetted protocol in place that guarantees, like my passport, that I'm good to go.
Right, Peter, and thanks for that initial, somewhat grim, I would say, scenario, which is realistic. It is what it is, and that's how we have to be prepared, and that's how we have to think about and be ready for what's ahead of us. In some recent trends, some stuff has come out, Peter, that the immediate results when people go back to travel would be, as you quite mentioned there, like a 4-hour car ride, like a stay vacation. The closer places in a recent travel and leisure survey, places like Mexico came up on the top of the list because they're within a certain time frame, let's say a comfort zone.
Okay, but Carl, that may be within our comfort zone. It may not be within the Mexican government's comfort zone. They're going to want a guarantee too.
Exactly. This goes both ways. I'm not sure if you look at, you're probably looking at this from a global perspective. If you see how the Aussies and the Kiwis are doing it down under, like they're going to maybe their bubble, the so-called bubble, put that in effect, which could be a two-way. You know, tourism is good, but it's only between Australia and New Zealand, or let's say Mexico, Canada, and the United States. That type of thing. But it takes the governments to work together to make that happen, doesn't it?
It does. And look, Mexico has always been a great accessible destination for Americans. There's no news bulletin there. What's going to happen over and above the government being happy about it is travel insurance is going to have to be rewritten. And right now, how many Americans were totally pissed off to find out that the travel insurance they bought was worthless because on page 9 of their website was the clause saying not covered for pandemic.
And that's very small little writing that nobody ever reads.
Right. If you go on any travel website right now, Expedia, Travelocity, Orbitz, you name it, you cannot finish your transaction, including the airline's own websites, without opting in or out of insurance. And it's all misleading because they're telling you if you opt in, you'll have peace of mind if something goes wrong. No, you don't. So you're going to have to rewrite insurance policies, which will obviously carry a higher premium, to give people that peace of mind that's real, that if there's a problem, they either get to cancel or they get to come home. And without that, why would anybody go?
Peter, I think that you've seen, probably like I have down here, so many great examples of people who, you know, upheld their reputation at this time by refunding. But I mean refunding and really refunding, not just saying I'm refunding, then making it impossible to get your money back. There have been some great examples. I use the Four Seasons as one has done it here. But then there's been a lot of people who have damaged their reputations, Peter, which is what concerns me, especially in the vacational rental segment. There's been a lot of that. So I think about going forward, it's going to be a lot about trust, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. My email inbox is inundated with complaints from my audience about the crazy voucher game. You know, as they say to me all the time, I cannot pay my rent with a voucher. And part of the message that you might want to come across and give as an association or a group of hotels or travel providers is that if anything happens, you'll get your refund within 48 hours, no questions asked, because people have already been through the ringer with airlines desperate to preserve cash and playing games.
Definitely.
And by the way, playing games, even when the rules are clearly stated by U.S. government agencies. Clearly stated, and they're still playing games.
Some people had to go do a rewind, didn't they? Said we're going to, then they changed their message that they were refunding, then they weren't refunding, then they were refunding. It's been
they're still playing games.
Yeah.
They're still playing games. Exactly. I'll give you an example. Under the U.S., excuse my terrible voice today, but under the U.S. Department of Transportation regulations, if an airline cancels your flight even if it's an international airline, as long as it's flying to or from the United States, you are entitled to a full and immediate refund of whatever you paid, even if it was a non-refundable ticket, back to the original form of payment. The airlines, in many cases, not all, but in many cases, ignored that or never volunteered that to their customers, that it was a regulation. And now they're playing games again, saying, well, if we change your flight by 6 hours, well, then we really haven't canceled it. Yeah, you have. Yes, you have.
You have.
If I'm on flight 5 and you move me to flight 9, well, guess what? Flight 5 was canceled. Guess what? I need the refund and I deserve it. So what you're going to see, talk about bad reputation here, what you're going to see is that credit card charges are going to be disputed on statements. And if those are denied, there's going to be a parade in the small claims courts in the United States, and passengers will prevail. And the reason why they prevail, how many small claims court judges are trying to get their refunds? It's a slam dunk. But the travel industry needs to be very transparent here, and moving forward, it should be part of their messaging that if you're paying for a future flight or a future hotel room or a future tour, and for whatever reason where you're going is canceled or closed, no questions asked, you get the money back.
Within 48 hours.
Exactly. If they don't do that, that travel rebound will be slower. It won't bounce back. It'll inch back.
Definitely, Peter. Tell me, Peter, I've been looking at, as I look at destinations around the world, how they prepare and, and how they've been acting in this, how severe they've been applying the lockdown. I look at Hawaii, what a good example of, that's a hard hand. Seem to be doing a good job. We've had very few cases in our area, thanks to, keeping the social distancing in place. What would you say about a destination's preparation to be ready for when the gates do open again?
Well, think about what the hotel experience it is. It's large social gatherings in somewhat confined spaces where people are sharing experiences. Are you going to come to a point saying only 2 people in a pool at any one time? Are you going to limit people on the water slides? Are you going to limit people in the ocean? Are you going to practice social distancing in your main dining rooms, or even in your upscale dining rooms, where you'll have to change your floor plan, and next thing you know, you can't make any money because you can't turn enough tables. All of these things are being taken into account, no more so than the cruise industry, by the way. I mean, when you talk about social distancing, you literally can't widen a cruise ship or widen an airline. Social distancing and an airline are mutually exclusive. It doesn't exist. And anybody who thinks that middle seat will be blocked in perpetuity is in perpetuity delusional. That middle seat's going nowhere, and you're going to be in it 3 months from now. So just get ready for it.
Exactly. I was talking to a friend in the airline industry, said, we're now applying that as soon as the airline is 60% or 50, whatever percent full, we're letting our passengers know that flight will have people in the middle now, because they can't let, it's a revenue management thing.
Well,
at the end of the day,
what they're actually saying is that when it's 60% or above, they will alert guests by email or text messaging or at the gate that the plane is essentially 60% full, and if they want to not fly that flight and fly a less crowded flight, they'll do that. Think of the irony here. When in our lifetimes in the airline business have we ever been offered the option to get off a completely full flight? It's absurd. Yeah. And by the way, that business model is unsustainable when travel returns, because the business model of every airline is to fill every seat. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right, definitely. Peter, another question if we switch off over from airlines to hotels, apart from seeing new trends in hotels, how do you think the rates are going to go from the beginning? How long will the slump be? What's the roller coaster ride there like?
Well, in the short term, and I apply this both to the airlines and the hotels, if you look at history, the travel industry has tried to discount their way out of these things in the past when they've had economic problems. That is not going to work this time. In the airline business, the people who are going to fly are only going to be the people who have to fly initially. And for hotels, about the same. So the smart hotels and the smart airlines are going to realize that and don't look. You know what the airfare was 2 weeks ago from Fort Lauderdale to Los Angeles on JetBlue one way? $12.89. No. And did that drive traffic? Absolutely not. there were still only 10 people on the plane. So what they need to do right now is to use an asset they used to make quite restrictive, their frequent flyer programs and their frequent stay programs. You have 23 trillion unused miles right now out there. God knows how many frequent stay points. So the best way to reward loyalty to your frequent flyers and your frequent hotel stayers is to release those now. You have the capacity and invite them back at lower redemption levels, so it's nothing out of their pocket, and they're using a room that would otherwise be empty anyway, and that's how you get them back. You don't get them back by discounting the rate. You will see, stay 3 nights, get the 4th free. I get that, but the minute you start messing with your rate integrity at a time like this, you're not reading the room. They're not going to be driven by lower rates. They're going to be driven by seeing a video of the hazmat team in their room 10 minutes before they check in, making sure that everything has been deep cleaned and everything's been disinfected. And basically they put a seal on the door, and the only person who breaks that seal is you when you check in. That's what they want to see. So the whole marketing aspect of hotels has to go from size 0 breast enlarged women at the pool with their wine glass to the hazmat team cleaning their silverware.
Right. Yeah, I can't agree with you more. And that's my recommendation too. We've got to have like a SWAT cleaning squad, so to speak. And, anybody leaves a beach chair or a table in a restaurant or a room in a hotel, bang, you're in there and it's clean. Right. Everything should be certified. I think certification's a good model to follow going forward. I think that's so. Getting back to that question, I said, so in your initial reaction was rates will not, people should be faithful to the value and the rate.
Well, look, I'm not a hospitality industry consultant, but I would say as a matter of social behavior that, discounting is not, look, you'll see some discounting always because people can't help themselves. But in the long run, discounting is not going to get you out of this. And as I just said, if you want people to drink the pina colada, you better show them what went into all the processes that got them to the pina colada, or they'll never drink.
Right. I would prefer margarita, but anyway, I'll take the pina colada or a nice cold beer. Tell me, Peter, what other changes do you see in the hotel world or the restaurant world that we're gonna? I know you mentioned in a recent talk you gave, I was watching, you talked about buffets, the breakfast buffet. You talked about other things in food and beverage. Anything else? You mentioned cleaning. Anything else, mate?
Well, the buffet, since you brought it up, you're going to see, if it's not eliminated, you're going to see people being able to approach it from a distance, point to what they want. It'll be plated for them by a wait staff and brought to their table. That's about as close as they're going to get. People may not actually gain weight this way, but that's an unintended consequence.
It's good for guys like you and me.
Absolutely. But it will change the definition of room service. It'll change the definition of hotel restaurants. It'll change the definition of hotel bars. For those hotel bars that do a huge business, I don't know what you do. I really don't know what you do. Initially, social distancing may keep the bar open, but it won't keep it profitable. And I don't care how you slice it. That's the nature of the game. So initially, anybody opening their doors, look, you're the lab animals here. You're the laboratory rats. I have to say it. That's it. And if you can get through the first 3 months, knowing you're never going to make money, but you're going to get communication out there that people went, had a great time, and didn't die, and they really appreciate the process, not the product, but the process of what you went through to make sure that you are truly practicing hospitality in the new era. That will go a long way to getting people to come back when there is a vaccine.
Thanks for that, Peter. And that's something that we're doing. It's just we've got in Punta Mita, which, as you well know, we have the Four Seasons, the St. Regis, all the villas, private villas. So we've got a committee together now to work as a destination Punta Mita, because there's no sense that the St. Regis or the Four Seasons do a good job if I go out and play tennis or I play golf and the protocols aren't in place. So what we're working on now is a 360 for the destination to make sure that we are solid and we are getting certified, and obviously in conjunction with your local tourism board, because It begins at the airport, hops in the car, and then it, as you well know, this is a 360, very sensitive cycle.
Well, when you take a look, and I'm sure you already have, of what the touch points are from the time somebody leaves their house and arrives at your front door of the hotel, there are about 47 of them. And of those 47 of them, you're probably in control of about 19 or 20 at the hotel. Yeah. So you're going to have to address every single one of them. All the things you used to take for granted, that playbook is out the window.
Definitely. And I think it comes down to trusted partners, people that have also done with the same. I think it goes back to basics of business life as we knew it. You work with the people you can trust, the people that are qualified, the people that have the same passion to make this whole thing bulletproof, so to speak.
Right, right. And to the extent that you have to limit access or limit the numbers, people will pay that premium for that security. They will.
Right,
look, put it this way. We're talking about theme parks the other day, and Disney says it might reopen. Well, practicing social distancing means those rides are meant to be shared, right? You're sharing that experience. I don't want to go on Pirates of the Caribbean on my own boat with nobody else with me. What's the point of going on a roller coaster if you can't scream next to somebody, right? I mean, think about it, right? And those rides were designed for that. Those experiences were designed for that. And what we're going to find out, at least in the short term, is that it really is a small world after all, because there's not going to be a lot of people in it with you. And the real question is, that'll redefine the experience, at least in the short term, and it's not going to be the most exciting thing going. But if they're going to open them up, that's the only way they can open up those parks.
Right. So I think the secret probably, wrapping up this session, which I try to keep down to 20, 25 minutes, Peter, I think there is our ability to pivot and to adapt to the short-term reality, not knowing how long that might last when the gates open. And so I'd say that's the secret for those that are listening to us. Say it's our ability as hoteliers, destination managers, restaurateurs, our ability to survive and pivot in the short, midterm, or until this thing is over.
Correct. And to wrap it up on my end, what people really wanted after 9/11 was their blankie. They wanted their security blanket. Now it's not one-dimensional anymore. Their company wants it. They want it. Governments want it. The travel providers want it, not just for their guests, but for their own team members. So it's multifaceted, but if you don't provide that, and there's a weak link in that chain, it's going to fall apart.
Fantastic, Peter. And on behalf of all our fans here in Punta Mita, on behalf of my colleagues, John O'Sullivan at the Four Seasons and James at the St. Regis, and all our friends here in Punta Mita, I hope we can see you down here one day soon. My love to Handy, and thank you for your time, mate.
And please tell John O'Sullivan I expect a poem out of this.
We'll get him to do that.
Thanks, Carl.
Take care, mate. All the best. Bye.